Iodo, at your service. In today's video, I'll be showing you how to make a braided throwing sling. Some of you might be thinking, what am I wearing? This is a t-shirt I won in a giveaway from the YouTube channel Old Geeks Talking. They're an awesome channel, I think you should check them out. And for the first time doing a tutorial video, I think, so far on this channel, I actually know what I'm talking about because I've done it before, so I might stand a chance of getting it correct. What will you need? The materials are honestly quite simple. All you actually need is some garden twine, plenty of it, and some of those office clip things, but clothes pegs will also work. And if you want to be extra fancy, you can use a piece of leather to make a pouch on the sling afterwards, and that can be just any leather made from an old leather coat or something, but you don't actually have to do that. It will still work without. Last year I made a video of using a sling, and I used this sling instead, and this isn't braided. Braiding a sling is quite a lot of work, so some of you might be thinking, why bother? Now, although a sling like this does work, there are definitely advantages to one like this, and that is a braid isn't woven like string is woven. So it can't twist up in either direction. Whereas what tends to happen with these is when they hang straight, they end up twisted and then they get tangled up. Whereas this won't happen nearly as easily to a braided sling. The first thing I'm going to do is quite simple really. I'm going to cut 6 strands of this that are all 15 feet long. In order to measure that, all I do is I use a tape measure laid out on the ground, and my tape measure is only 10 feet, so I just have to do 10 feet and then another 5. I won't film that. Okay, so now I've cut my 6 strands of 15 feet, just like I said. There's both ends of it, the rest of it's on the floor. I've also cut 3 short pieces, about somewhere between 6 and 10 inches. I'll show you what those are for in a minute. The next step of the process is to find the middle. So I've got both ends of the sets of 6. I'm just going to run them through my hands until I get to the middle. So there's the middle. I didn't list a pen on the what you will need, so I'm going to mark the middle with the pen. What you want to do now is lay one side out on the bench so that it's out of the way, and then using a peg to clamp maybe 2 inches that way of the middle. Now this is where it turns into a massive knot. You have to separate this into groups of 2. Okay, so now I've separated these into groups of 2. It's going to be near impossible to braid that because they're so long. So the next thing I'll do is I'll just make a loop out of each strand, or each set of 2 strands, and that's where the shorter pieces come in. So I'll just tie that, and then I'll do exactly the same with the other 2 groups of 2. Honestly, this will make sense in a minute. The knot I'm tying on these, all I've done here is I've wrapped the string round it once, and then when I cross it over, I just tie an ordinary, I don't know what it's called, ordinary knot, but then I hold on to both hands so that you end up with a loop. So it's like the top bit of a bow without the bottom bit of a bow, because if you use hemp twine it's got enough friction to not come undone anyway. At this point what I'm going to want to do is just do a 3-strand braid of those pieces. So if you've ever plaited hair, it's exactly the same. I'm just going to bring one side to the middle, and then I'm going to bring the other side to the middle, and then keep going. You just have to be very careful not to pull it out of the clip, because otherwise it will unravel at the other end. Now this bit that I'm braiding now will become the finger loop of the sling, so that will be right in the middle. If I get the one that I did earlier, that will become that, and so that is actually in the middle so that there's no knot on the end of the loop, and then the sets of 2 will be braided into one, so it become twice as thick for the rest of the part of it. So that needs to be about 2 or 3 inches long, just so that you can get your finger through it comfortably. So I'll do that now, and I'll speed it up. Okay, so now I'm satisfied that that's long enough. The loop is probably about 1 1/4 or 1 1/2 inches long. Then you have to do the difficult bit. So what I normally do is I fold them over so that the braids are up tight against each other, and then I turn the clip around and then clamp the braids like that so that it can't come undone, and then flip it over. At this point you've then got 3 separate pieces that are part of the braid that you've just done, and then you've got the 6 loose ones from underneath, which are from the other side. So it's normally worth working out which groups that these are in and splitting them, so again more tangles. You don't strictly have to do that, you can just pick random groups of 4, because you're then going to need to divide all 12 strings, because you've got 6 on each side, which makes 12, into 3 to carry on the 3 braid, so you'll end up with 3 groups of 4 strands. You can just divide it randomly and it does work. So because the loop joins onto itself, it just generally looks a little bit nicer if the braids come together flat on top of each other. However, it doesn't really affect its function if they don't. But to get them to do that, what you need to do is take the group of 4 so that they're directly above each other. So you've got this long one from the edge, which is directly above this one from this side. So if I make that into a group of 4, because you're going to need 3 groups of 4 carrying on, so that you've got 4 threads per strand of the braid, if that makes any sense. and this one is definitely more in the middle, so this one will pair with that one. So there's the 3 separate groups of 4. What I'll then need to do is undo these and then do them up with all 4 of them. Now that's done, I'll start braiding that section of the sling after the finger loop. So the overall length that you want your sling, that braid will be half the length of. So if you decide now, your 15 feet will make a sling that is 23 inches long folded in half. But I had a couple of feet left over, but you want a couple of feet left over because you can vary how much string you use based on how tightly you do the braid, and you don't want to run out because that will be a lot of wasted effort. So what I'll do is I'll start braiding from here and I'll stop when I reach a similar length to this one. Obviously when the distance from there to that runs out, you'll have to untie these and let some out. But it's a lot easier to tie those than to try to do it without, because I've tried both ways. So I won't film all of this because it's just the same. I'll come back to the camera when I've done that length.